Hello, I'm Toby Rutter, and this is the third instalment of my Scratch weekly reflection videos. I think it's been a really productive week this week. We've started to think about the plot points of our piece, and we've also started to think about the elements which we might like to include within the piece. So we started off on our project day morning by looking at different elements that we might want to include. So we played around with music, we played around with movement, we played around with speaking in unison, we played around with some improvisational techniques as well, but we found those didn't work so well for the Scratch piece. We think we would like to have a set script by the end of the project. Well, hopefully long before the end of the project, but so that was the morning. We spent the morning in the Roper room. I feel like it was a really productive morning because we started to not just workshop, but we started to come up with ideas and what we would like to see within the piece. Because we knew from previous weeks the themes that we would like to explore, and certain ideas that we wanted to work around, but we now knew what elements and what techniques we wanted to see within our piece. So as we went into the afternoon, that was when we really started entering the creative process. We started by making some still images of moments we'd like to include within the piece. And then as time went on, we then started to think about a storyline of the piece, not quite a script yet, but how we wanted the story to look. And we became set on the idea of a poor piano player who sells his soul to the devil in return for wealth and fame, to fuel his alcoholism and debauchery. And once we had that idea, I think we all felt a lot more comfortable, because in previous weeks where we've just been workshopping and we've been thinking about themes we wanted to explore, I think we were all a little bit on edge that we didn't have a piece yet. We didn't really know what we were actually doing. But this week, as we were able to explore what we wanted to do and exactly how we wanted the piece to look as a first draft, if you like, I think we all felt a lot more comfortable and a lot more prepared. As we've come to the end of the week, I think what's worked really well, as I said, is that we've been able to make a story. We now know what elements we want to include. One of the main elements that we would like to sort of base the story around is music, specifically the piano and playing the piano on stage. We feel that that's working really well, not just as a novelty within the piece, but as something that we can really base our story around. And what changes do we want to make? Well, first of all, we would like a script, and we would like to set in stone exactly how the story is going to look and what we're doing. Personally, I think one of the changes we need to make is moving away from a movement-led piece, because at the moment it feels very movement-led and it feels very unnaturalistic, and we've been told it's good to have some elements of both naturalism and unnaturalism, but to me the story of the piece, obviously someone meeting the devil and selling their soul to the devil is very much unnaturalistic, but the way in which the story runs, I mean, starting in a church, which is the plan, and then moving into a bar, these are very naturalistic settings, and I feel as though to make the piece more sort of artistically pleasing, I think we need to move away from the unnaturalism slightly and more towards sort of lean in towards the naturalism. And that's not to say scrap everything apart from naturalism. That's just saying I think it would look a little bit strange if we're in a bar and there's people sort of moving in a Masonic manner all around the place. You know, I think if you're in a naturalistic setting, it's best to keep the aesthetic of it reasonably naturalistic, which is why I'm going to suggest that the costume of the devil, who is probably the main unnaturalistic piece of the piece, the devil dresses sort of naturalistically and in clothes that you might see every day, just to make it fit the tone a little bit better. So yeah, I'm really excited going into next week and to see how the creative process continues. I think we've got a lot to think about, but now that we've got the basis of our piece, I'm really excited to get going on it.